Yeah, fine. You'll just.
Yeah. Okay. And then just give it to her, yeah.
Okay, yeah, yes,
Yeah.
she didn't. Okay. I don't know what.
Sure. Yeah, you got that. I mean, I guess I'll roll on it. Once it's all. Yeah.
Oh.
And these things happen over the years. Yeah.
I understand that.
What do you pay with it?
Right.
I don't know.
You got all the way through when I went to that. But luckily, my class. Okay. Nothing? All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. I'm gonna call the meeting of the Highland School Board to order at 6:02. And we'll start with a roll call by the clerk. Michael?
Here.
Mitchell?
Here.
Jimmy? Here. Here. Evan? Here. I'm here. Hurry. Join me for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Posting of this meeting given to the public pursuant to Wisconsin statute 1984. Thank you. Very tired today. Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to approval of the minutes. Regular meeting June 8th and special meetings 22nd and 23rd.
Just one small number, 27 those. Looks like the person should have something in it, and then just list their names, but like, that means to say, but I mean, at that point.
Okay. Are you able to change that or do you want us to just send a message?
We can change that, but I couldn't.
Okay, so it says at 7:30. Go ahead.
On the 27th, one closed session, like the fourth paragraph down, it lists the teachers that were involved in that meeting, and it just says at 7:30 unless their names, but just needs to say that's when they left the meeting, and the board continued with that.
Oh,
It doesn't say, it just stops.
we can change that. I'll make a motion to approve all three open and closed sessions for June 8th, 27th, and 29th. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes for June 8th, June 27th, and June 29th. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Approval of current expenses and vouchers payable. Andy, is there anything we should note on here?
I don't think there's anything unusual. Linda, any from your looking through? We've got some things that were end of the year stuff from last fiscal year, obviously the first few that are on there, but I think everything else is pretty straightforward.
Exactly. First page is 21-22 expense vouchers that will get charged to the previous school year. And then on the second page, you'll notice at the top, the 22-23 expense vouchers. So that's for payments that were made in July and will be charged to the 22-23 school year. I'll also make a motion to approve the current expenses and vouchers payable.
We have a motion and a second to approve the current expenses and vouchers payable. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to public appearances before the board, not for action. You have anything for us tonight?
Yes, do you want me to say my name?
Yes. And just a quick reminder, we have a policy of 3 minutes per person.
Perfect. Sarah Baroker. I am here tonight to let you know that I feel the school district of Highland is failing our students when it comes to their safety and mental health. While I cannot comment directly in open session on the incidents involving my child, I want to address how I fear the failure of the district regarding these incidents may lead other children to harm. As a new school year approaches, I cannot sit by and let that happen again. I have questions I would like you to consider based on the significance of the incidents. Question 1, does the punishment always equal the crime? I'd like to call into question expulsion decisions that have involved students. In the past, they were discharged from school, not allowed to graduate with their class for different reasons. However, recently, the same punishment was not leveled when facing more serious deviant conduct. Question 2, every staff member of record is a mandatory reporter. Does every staff member report? As a former school nurse, I know every employee is a mandatory reporter. I question the lack of reports that have been forthcoming to the school board, community, staff, law enforcement, and DPI. It feels as though additional training is necessary to ensure there's no question on the responsibility of every adult in the hallway, classroom, lunchroom, locker room, or football field. Question 3, Professional responsibility of the school board. What are your professional and legal responsibilities as a board member? Are you fulfilling those responsibilities? It's the job of the school board to make sure you confirm the hire of and maintain employment of the best possible candidates. What is your responsibility when a professional license is under review? Question 4. Why have a student handbook of procedures outlined if not followed? On page 22 of your school handbook, it defines sexual harassment and expresses minimum, alternate, and maximum action. Is this merely a recommendation for the district to follow? It would seem so in our case. My husband and I have been supporters of the Highland School District for over 20 years. While I understand our case is still pending, law enforcement and the DA have noted enough evidence to warrant felony charges. It's hurtful not to receive any sort of apology from the school or staff, and equally hurtful to see school staff attend court hearings. We care about the other students too much to go away. We will continue to follow up until we see improvements or changes. Do better, Highland, for your students, staff, and community.
Thank you, Sarah. Did you want us to follow up with those questions, or would be able to follow up with those questions? Is that something that you want in the future? Okay, we can talk about that in the future. Anybody else? Move on to the principal's report.
I have a few things I want to share with you. In our next meeting, we'll have a COVID update for you as far as what our procedure will be for the start of the school year. Obviously with hopefully things lightening up the way they are now with COVID, that we can do some changing and have the protocols different than we had previously. So we'll get that to you. Obviously, we'll get the most recent update from the Debbie Siegenthaler in Howard County. We'll get those to you for your next meeting, so we're ready for the next school year. The playground piece has been ordered. If you remember, we had the $5,000 donation. That piece has been ordered or will be here shortly. So we got the piece picked out now. And we're gonna use some ESSER funds to pay for the remaining portion of it and get that added. It's the last piece in the section of the playground that we have now. So that'll be coming hopefully sooner than later. The vets wall, if you remember, you approved that. We had to make a couple of adjustments to it with the signage that we had on that. We have a lot more names that were added with the project that a senior did last year. So we had to change some stuff up, so we got more room for names. So it's gonna be awesome when it's done. We just got a lot of names to get in there now, and just a lot of spell checking and all that stuff. And then we found some spots where we can add some pictures, so it's gonna be really nice.
Does that add to the cost, the additional size?
It doesn't, no, the cost is gonna be about the same. There might be a couple of additional things if the pictures that we use aren't, if they have to do some adjusting, they said, so, but overall it should be right where we thought. Fall sports is starting here pretty soon, before our next board meeting. I think football starts August 2nd already, and then just after that, volleyball will start. Our activity meeting will be Monday night, 7 o'clock. And then the softball and, I'm sorry, the volleyball and the football meeting will be right after that meeting for the individual parents of those teams. AP testing, got the results back from our AP test. Kids did very well. We had 10 different tests being taken, and 9 out of the 10 tests all received college credit. So we're very happy about that. Both kids in AP Bio got college credit. We had one student take the AP Calc test and receive credit. We had 2 take the AP Calc 2, it's called the BC test. One of the 2 got credit for that, and that's the first time we taught that class. And that baby is nasty. The kids did very well on it. And then 5 AP English kids, and they all received credit. Along with that, we had 9 students in Spanish 4 And if you recall, we're running that through UW Green Bay, where they can get 14 college credits. All 9 students accomplish that. So Ms. Johnson did a great job, students did a great job. And then they can, depending on what college they go to, they can get 9 either Spanish direct credits, so they're really close to a Spanish minor already, or they can use them as elective credits, which they need, depending on how the university sets it. So they're a little finicky sometimes, depending on the university. But kids did great, really proud of them. We talked about this before as far as drop off and pick up the school buses in the mornings. So we have a plan that we're gonna, I'll bring to you again, obviously later, but where we want all the elementary student age students to be picked up and dropped off in the south parking lot. We'll make that kind of a train assembly line type of thing where we keep all the kids on the sidewalk when we drop off. They're not walking on into parked vehicles. The garbage pickup, unfortunately, was always Monday mornings, and they always seem to show up at when kids are here, 4 to 8. So it was always so we'll call and get them to do that at a different time that day.
Isn't that how you're doing it?
At the end of the year, yeah, we tried our best.
Okay.
Obviously, sometimes, it's just really tough. Parents still come down the front, so we're gonna give them some signage maybe, and then, maybe moving Belby out instead of where he's at, moving me out there a little farther and closer to the crosswalk maybe. Another issue is too, with kids that are especially close, they'll come across the grass instead of going to a crosswalk. And that's where we had a close call last spring that we want to make sure we avoid this year, where, remind the parents to have your kids go up to a crosswalk and not, because if there's a parked car there and they're, short enough to go between the 2 vehicles, it's, you can't see them. So we'll do that. And then obviously the middle and high school kids drop off on the north side of the parking lot if they're being dropped off to school. Big thing is the passing out in front where, we preach, no pass, just wait. Unfortunately, let's say if you have 3 cars back to back to back, right? They think they need to wait till they get to the front of the school before they drop their kids off, where if all 3 cars are there, you can all let your kids off at the same time. They can walk a little farther, it's okay, and we can keep things moving faster. And then you get somebody that might be in a hurry and they try to pass on that left side, and that's where you run into problems.
Do you have certain people assigned to be out there too?
Yeah, we're looking at possibly doing that myself, or, I stand right inside and read the kids as they come in. Maybe I'll stand on the outside and read them out there, maybe.
What if there was like student crossing guards?
Yeah.
I know we had stuff like that in high school, that's a possibility.
Yeah, we talked about that too, and having a sign for the cross guards, just a stop sign and obviously wait. I think Riverdale's done that when I worked there too, so.
What about I just thought of this, and I don't even know if it's feasible, but like, what if that whole drop-off area in front of the school was painted like a crosswalk? I mean, if there was lines everywhere, in theory, the whole thing would be a crosswalk, and any car in that would have to treat it as such. Maybe that changes the mentality of it, maybe. That's a lot of pain, I don't know what costs being. Maybe there's limits on crosswalks, but it might be something.
Yeah, the floor in the girls' locker room is done now, so, I think Don and the crew are painting it, today and finishing up this week, so all we're waiting on now is the lockers and obviously have them installed. Mike sent an email to Greg Gunn here today, I believe, just to get an update on where that could be. It is possible they will not be in, as with the way things get delivered right now, it's a little tough, but so far we're on pace to have them in before school starts, so hopefully that stays that way. Right now we're looking as far as what we need. We've been very lucky not to need much for staff, but the science teacher is still open. We need a cook, an aide, and then a couple advisors for our seniors, one for our sophomores, but other than that, sitting all right. But science teacher obviously has been tough on. There's a lot of schools right now that look for science teachers, can't get them, but hopefully we can got some leads here that we're looking at right now. Hopefully we can get one to come to fruition. That's it for me.
Randy?
Mine is much shorter than Josh's. Give me time, it'll get there. A couple of things. Josh mentioned the locker room floor being finished. All the old lockers are going to be replaced, as you know. In addition to that, there's some old tables and chairs. We've got some technology equipment that's out of date. We are going to post those on a site called Wisconsin Surplus, which is a lot of schools and communities do. You've got board policy 7310 that allows us to do that as long as no single item is worth more than $5,000. And I can assure you, none of them are. So we're going to be doing that. I was approached today by Upland Hills Health and the Iowa County Health Department working jointly. They're required to do periodic community surveys. And they're asking the school districts in the county to just send out the link to the survey to their parents. It's an email link with a small explanation, and that's the only thing that we have to do for it. They do all the data collection. It's their data. So I'm planning on doing that early next week and get that out once they get the final survey to me. The last thing I've got for you is related to some of Brown's work, in particular in front of the school, basically from the middle, I think it's the middle school doorway here, just past the high school doorway, where we've got some of the prairie area. It looks wonderful. I'm a flower guy. I like flowers, but it is an issue that close to the building because it tends to attract rodents and other critters. And they have a delightful way of trying to find their ways into school in addition to other things. So what we're planning on doing starting Tuesday is we are going to take that out. The stuff on the other side of the drive, we're not touching. It's wonderful. We want to keep that. But frankly, for just common sense, we need to take that stuff away from the building itself. So I think this has been discussed with the Buildings and Ground Committee previously. Just wanted to let you know that it's actually going to be happening on Tuesday. So that's it for me at the moment.
With the things that we're selling like lockers, are we required to go through Wisconsin Surplus? Is it something where we could locally post? I mean, maybe people in Highland, for nostalgia reasons, whatever, would love to have first crack at finding them.
Well, Linda shared with me that we've actually done auctions in the past. We've done silent auctions. We've had an auctioneer. That certainly would be another possibility.
Maybe more of a cost with that, though, where if we posted it on like the website or something, people could bid, or if we just say X for a locker, people could buy, maybe.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that's what we're gonna do with Wisconsin. So there's no reason we couldn't do both, frankly. Put it on our website that we have these things for sale. And then basically first come, first serve. That would be okay with you guys.
Because it's not something, would we have to take them? Because isn't the Wisconsin Surplus up like between Verona and
No,
Madison?
they come and
Get.
they come and get it. Yeah.
They're in Mount Horeb too, by the way. Wisconsin Surplus.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we'll look into doing a little bit of both. We'll see what interest is within the community.
Sounds great. Buildings and grounds update.
Yes.
You're
We're gonna kind of
I
cover
guess
that.
I just did it, sorry.
No, that's okay. We, some of the things we talked about, obviously in the front of the building, we're going to handle that out. It's gonna be seated. Pretty much until we go to referendum and potentially talk about redoing the sidewalk in the front of the entire building. We did a really thorough walk around of the grounds. Noted, through summer school, we had a fancy bark pile over there that's gone now. That's found its home in the butterfly garden, so that's good. Some other things that we were looking at were the raised garden beds and what was once the lasagna garden out front. So the lasagna garden is just weeds. It's just a heap of weeds. So we're hoping that that will go away when we take the front out here. Young Mockingbird, Darren is going to, I believe, assist with all of that as potentially part of the student project. So that's exciting.
So that's gonna go away, and then, our hope is that we can at least round up the raised beds until we work with the teacher, responsible for putting those into place for, the summer school class last year. What else? We'd like to maybe look at trimming up, Josh had informed me that the trees out along the driveway, to the south side, that we actually pulled those out of the landscaping and put those up there, and they're really nice, but we might look at trimming the bottoms of those, in the future, just to keep them kept. What else am I forgetting about? We're really excited about the front of the building. I know it's kind of a bummer to see some of those things go, but it's definitely necessary at times, so.
And Mike pointed out to us too, like the bench in the front, these are really nests underneath the benches, it's just not upkept, I think how, like you pointed out, it brings other things that maybe it should be next to school.
It's critter paradise.
Yeah.
Taken on as well, or is it just going to be taken care of?
Our talk with Mike, he mentioned something about potentially getting some kids to stain it or to do something with it. And of course, if there's not that much brushy stuff around it,
That might be.
it might be better. It needs to be updated. It's,
I
yeah.
apologize if that was.
I mean, all that, it's. and
I
it's
know
probably-
kids sit on it.
Yeah.
So-
Right, and it's
so
probably
important.
good, it just needs to be stained,
Okay.
you know, sanded and stained over time, so.
Yeah, you do see kids sit in them, like when they're waiting for rides and such, so it'd be kind of nice to have something out there for the children to sit in when they are waiting, and that's nice out.
But Mike and I also talked about some of well, almost all of the picnic tables have at least one warped board on either on the seat or on the table part. So we're gonna work with the tech ed department this fall and make this a kid project we'll buy the materials, obviously, replace those, and then probably paint them as well. To make it look a little nicer than what they are right now.
The other thing that we talked about was in the back of school, for in the evenings, for potential games or even concerts, so not during the day parking, but potentially adding more lines in the back. So for games, people could park in the back of school and walk towards the field that way.
And they do,
It's more.
for football games, they do occasionally, so have lines there. And they can get more.
Or even adding signs, because I think, you know, when people come for concerts and things, they see people just start lining up on the south side, and then they just assume that there's no parking, and there's like 15 more spots back there. I don't know the best ways to use that, but we threw an extra sign up or something with that. Or add the line so that it's parallel and not just like, you know.
We talked about too, like the Gaga pit and the sand boxes that are over there. Like a lot of the sand is now on the ground. So maybe just maintaining that too. That was one thing that we noticed. Adding 4 square lines again. That was maybe a project for somebody, but it didn't get finished.
You guys can figure out how to keep sand in the sandbox.
Right.
So several times in the.
It keeps going.
Whether it's like, you know, because we had talked about where, like the placement of the playground equipment too, because is that gonna go up on the hill or is that gonna go?
No, it's not.
It is, okay. 'Cause-
Yeah, we talked about one that's more handicap accessible, you know, maybe by the Gaga pit, but, we decided, it is accessible to handicap wherever it's at now, except it's not specifically, so, but it's the last piece in the set, so that we get the last set, and then I think we want to look at, next time we get a piece, big picture. We're looking at, you notice like in the Gaga pit right now, in the middle of it, it's just dirt. It used to be grass, obviously, but it doesn't take long, kids got it down the dirt, you know, and it turns to mud, and, even though kids love to play in that, but obviously it's a mess for the school, but having some kind of, I don't know if you guys probably seen some kind of matting, you know, outdoor matting that they have on playgrounds now, kids that fall on it, you know, it's soft. So something like that. So looking at big picture, how we want to lay out future pieces and things like that, or if we have to replace ones that are in there. So that'll be our next after this piece.
The other thing we kind of talked about was referendum in a couple of years and talking about parking lot. Bryce said that was the first time we had heard from somebody that there wasn't a lot of parking issues, so that's a discussion that we don't have. Plus the prairie in the middle, how deep is the water in the middle? I forgot about that. And is it a safety hazard? Should there be a fence around it if there is a certain depth of water? I think Brian had mentioned that.
In the middle
How
of
deep
that.
is it in the middle?
Yeah.
Because that, I didn't know that there was actually water in there, but I guess it's a drainage field. It's kind of what our discussion was.
From what I'm told, we built the school, we need a detention pond there, so that's what it was, that's not actually the prairie where that is, on the south end of the prairie is where it's at, it's not the prairie. And over the years, it just filled in, and, you know, like in wintertime, you can drive, you can take, it's nothing there, you know, so, but if you get enough rain, yeah, it does do its job, it retains water, so. But
So that
yeah,
was
as
just a
far
little
as-
nerve wracking, like obviously you don't want a 4K running out of the school, like in some crazy situation and having a safety issue. So that was one thing that was,
Okay.
oh, didn't even think of that. So,
Maybe no lifeguard on duty sign, just for liability purposes.
right?
Moving on to policy committee, we did meet last night. We didn't make any changes to what we already had from the last committee meeting. We did discuss, again, the activities compared to the, but I guess where we're all at is we haven't come up with anything great. And if anybody does come up with anything, then they bring it and consider it again for next year. And then we'll be approving the activities handbook, coaches handbook, new business. Which leads us to new business. Start with the activities handbook. This is the second. You already, yes, Josh?
Approve the first one.
If I recall, there might be, is there just a couple of wording changes from last time, or is it as is? I thought there was something about, just like.
In the coaches handbook, are you asking?
No, the
Oh,
activities.
activities.
But I think there were a couple times where we were talking about like putting in junior students specifically. I don't know if that's in these spots where it's highlighted yellow, crossed out, and
Right.
right after them back up.
It should. But, right.
Yeah.
So it should be. pretty much what you saw.
Move to approve the athletic handbook.
Second the motion.
Okay, motion by Jaeger and second by Schmidt to do the activities. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Any changes?
Not seeing anything highlighted and nothing was brought to the policy committee, so if there was, then.
There's just one brief addition on page 6 under the section B cooperation to account for the appeals board as part of the activities code. So the wording is, as a coach, you may be selected as a member of the activities code appeals board. You're not selected as a member of at the beginning of the year, you may be selected as an alternate in the event of a conflict of interest. For example, if you're dealing with a basketball player and the basketball coach happens to be on the appeals board, we don't want them sitting in that section. But that's the only change from previous years.
I guess I have a quick question. For the handbook for activities, if we're co-oping with other schools, I'm assuming the coaches from the other schools know what our policies are. Right?
Well, technically, if, for wrestling, for example, right? We have a grant, students from our grant follow their handbook and our students follow ours.
Their coach should know.
He's got a copy,
Okay.
when we invite him over to our activities meeting.
I mean, is there always a Highland guy, like Mr. Tucker, or so like, is there always a Highland assistant coach or something? Like for wrestling, for example, or sometimes it's just IG.
When we have Brad, it's there.
But in every circumstance, it's not that way. Like when we had cross country, they didn't have a coach on
Right.
staff. So
At
that's
that time.
So then in that scenario, I can have, co-oping, and so then we follow whose handbook in the co-op.
our kids follow our.
And the coaches, even if they're not from our school, they follow our handbook as well.
Mr. Terra said they get a copy of
Right.
our handbook, so, and I suppose to come upon them to make sure they read it and.
And it would be our administration. Right, should,
Right. Well, that's.
they should be reporting.
And they have to sign the contracts or the handbooks, like the
Yes.
students do,
The
to the coaches.
Our coaches sign our coaches handbook.
So though when we do a co-op though, should we have whoever is co-oping with us also sign our handbook? If they're the coach?
I think when we agree to co-op, we
Yeah.
agree that we're accepting. So it might be something, when we approve co-ops that, you know, we're into.
Yeah. In the future co-ops, yeah. Should be something we look into.
Do you think handbooks are significantly different school to school? Yes.
Okay.
We looked over many activities handbooks for multiple school districts.
I think
They are
the consequences
all
are all
over
over the place, but I think that the expectations are pretty similar. So if,
I mean, expectations are all about who's actually
and
putting
that's,
the hand down
Sure.
too. So, I don't know, I think that.
I can tell you from being a teacher, principal, and a superintendent in 8 different Wisconsin school districts, there's more similarities than differences, but there's always going to be the local take on some things. I think that's just the reality. So,
I don't see any other changes in this, so I'll make a motion to approve the Highland coaches handbook.
we have a motion by Glanville. Second by Richard to approve the coaches. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. On to the student fees. It's like you have what you want us to approve and then also in comparison to other districts, correct?
yes. The only changes that Linda and I are recommending are in the price of individual elementary lunch and middle school, high school lunch, and that is based on recommendations from DPI. It's actually lower than what DPI was fully recommending, but we're suggesting an increase of 10 cents per meal at both levels. All other fees remaining the same as they were last year and actually for quite a long time historically here. So,
Is there still the possibility of?
Did they extend it to like
Did
three?
they extend it?
I thought it was.
I thought it got extended, but
No, when we talked to them last week, they said that they think that we are going to be returning to the paying status. At this point, they have heard nothing that would,
And you get that information from DPI?
Yes.
Okay.
yes.
there was discussion at one point, in fact, even 2 weeks ago, when my first time at a board meeting here, that was something that had been mentioned, but it seems the legislative doors have slammed shut a little bit on that.
Make a motion.
We have a motion by Mitchell and a second by Jaeger to approve the student fees with 10% increase on elementary, middle school, and high school lunch. Is there more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Registration. Is that something, or do we move on to
Are you talking about?
standards? Well, underneath those, underneath the fees, you have registration, athletic, and is that just all of the fees?
It's all part of the fees. Yes.
Approving the academic standards. Year 22, 23.
Yeah, that's a yearly requirement. And the Declaration of Educational Standards just means that, as you can see from the handout, that we're following the standards that the board approved a number of years ago. And that the second part of that is what our academic accountability was based on this last year's testing. So in the first part of that, the accountability report, based on the testing, the elementary school met expectations with an average score of 65, and the middle school and high school both exceeded expectations based on the state testing. With the Declaration of Educational Standards is just simply saying these are the standards that we're following within the Highland Community Schools. They're based on, again, approved standards by the board a while ago. And the link to those standards, there are two links. One is to the DPI for the standards for everything but science. And when you go to the DPI page, it does a nice job because it explains what standards are, why we have them, and also explains the revision process that they undertake on a regular basis dealing with that. And then you have links to each one of the subject areas so that you can go directly to that to take a look at the standards. It's very handy. The science is an exception. The science standards are not based on the Common Core. They are based on the next generation standards, which are tied to Common Core to some extent, but science pushed it out a little bit more. And this happened a decade ago. So and they're, again, like the Common Core standards, are constantly revising on a regular basis. So.
Do we have past year's records of the accountability report, like to see how we're trending as a school?
Sure. Yep. can, if you'd like, as a board, we certainly can provide that for you for the next meeting as an informational item if you'd like.
That's just me being curious. I mean, I can only assume that numbers have probably dipped for a lot of schools just with COVID and kids being at home more. So I mean, I would think that that would affect these kind of scores. So I would assume a lot of schools probably saw a dip in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I don't know, Josh, correct me, since I wasn't in the country or the state this past year, but did they do anything with where their cut scores were? Did they adjust the scoring?
No, they did not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I've never shared anyone that I've, as far as
Okay.
DPI saying. they
Yeah, I didn't see
changed their
anything.
customers.
I mean, I got the WASDA newsletter every day, even when I was going out of the country. And I didn't see anything, but I certainly could have missed it. So yeah, you're right. Well, if most schools would see some kind of a dip, maybe not at every level, but that was pretty normal. I know the school I was at in overseas, we certainly saw a dip in some of our schools.
Last year's results are just on the board meeting agendas. So you can look back last year's. There's a back refer that actually shows up. That's good.
Cool. We will do that.
Please let us know if you want something more formal. We'll be happy to do that.
Which will be the 22, 23 academic standards.
Motion by Baker, second by Bellkamp. The 22-23 school year academic standards. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes, and then we have discussion regarding landscape plans in front of the building. I think we've talked about that.
Yeah, I believe I jumped the gun on that one, sorry.
I do want to say one thing. I recall several years ago, and Josh helped me out here, this was brought up. And then we had a couple of people come in asking us not to do that. Am I remembering that right?
Not to take it out.
Right,
Yes,
okay. And nobody's contesting this at this time?
not at
Or
this
do
time.
they not know that?
Well, they know, I mean,
Okay,
the staff that worked with that directly,
Mhm.
you know, took out every plant that they could,
okay,
and we got it moved across to the,
okay, so everybody knows what's happening, everybody
far as-
understands
right.
and,
I don't know if they understand or not. but-
well,
There'll be some contention, I'm sure, there'll be some people that wish we wouldn't do that, I'm sure. But, like I said, we tried our best to move everything over there, we got the signs all over there, we got everything we could. And unfortunately, with prairie plants, the root systems are so deep
Mhm.
that to transplant some of them, you know, we can try, and they tried, and some of them did take, some of them did, so. But
but
for
they
the
had
most,
that opportunity.
yeah. for the
I mean, we
most
still
part,
have an awful lot of green space. Can't be everything.
Okay, final fiscal year 2022 line item adjustments and revenues.
I'm gonna turn this over to Linda because this is her area of expertise.
So basically, if I can bring to your attention the expenditure projections for year end 6/30/22, it's basically the same format that you looked at last month with some minor revisions. If you remember last month, we talked about, there was a motion made to possibly transfer up to 300,000 to the Fund 46. So in June, we did the transfer of 250,000, so that's reflected toward the bottom of the page where it says interfund operating transfers. So basically, so we're looking at fiscal year end that we overspent our expenditure budget by $43,582, and that will include the 250,000 that we transferred last month. But then if you look at the revenue sheet, it shows that we were, over in revenue, so we had 92,000 in extra revenues. And we kind of went through that last month, and a lot of it was because of the COVID funding. So basically, if you look at the bottom of the page where it says the balance, so we have a balance of $48,937 available to either transfer to Fund 46, or, it could remain in the general fund balance. I don't know that we need to make another motion because the motion was up to 300,000. We may look at possibly transferring. We can only do this one more time in July. So we possibly would transfer another 25,000 to 30,000 to Fund 46. However, as listed on the agenda, we're required to, prepare this report and show what line items we're over or under in. And so that's why we have it on the agenda for your approval to show the line item adjustments. But really nothing too major as compared to last month. Actually, this was 2 weeks ago, wasn't it? There may be some payables coming in right before the, after I posted everything today, I got a bill for $4,000. So there will be some minor things, there'll be some minor adjustments after the audit, but this gets us really close.
So you don't need any motion.
I think you
decide-
should probably.
I know, I mean, if she decides, to move, or they decide to move
Oh.
more into the fund, but you're
No.
comfortable with that.
We're okay.
Right now, we're just.
We have a motion by Mitchell and a second by Glanville to approve the final fiscal year 2022 line item adjustments. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. And moving on to transfer to Fund 46, we already talked about that. Do you have anything else about
We
that?
just put that on there, so, we wanted to, let you know that we did make a transfer in June of the $250,000 and possibly, another 25 to 35,000.
And alternate open enrollment applications.
Yeah, we received two applications. In the first case, we have two students who are asking to open and roll out. They attended here this past school year. And then we have two students who are, the family is requesting that they attend Highland. They have had a move outside of the district. So they were actually attending here already, but the move has taken them outside of the borders of the district. So they're requesting open enrollment to be able to continue attending. When you look at our total transfers in and out for this upcoming year, we have transfers out a total of 46 and transfers in 53. So we have a net gain of 7. I always want a bigger number there, but unfortunately, I've been in districts where we had a negative number on that, so a positive is always good. I should mention under DPI rules, you don't really have many options on this.
Yes. I think everybody.
Yeah, we asked that before.
Yeah.
And then,
I'll make a motion to approve the open enrollment applications. I'll second.
We have a motion by Buckingham, second by Shinik to approve the alternate open enrollment applications. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. And we need to set the date for the next board meeting and any other meetings that you may want.
So I believe the next regularly scheduled board meeting would be the evening of August 10th, if I have the calendar correct. And then as far as committee meetings, Not sure where we are with those, to be honest. I don't know if buildings and grounds needs to meet again, policy.
I don't think we have any reason to leave the policy at this point.
Yeah, I haven't heard from Steve LaValle from NOAA
We
yet.
just had him not too long ago.
Yeah, so I would expect that the earliest that would be September. That's about when they bring their updates out. If I remember correctly. So I don't know if buildings and grounds feels like they need another one.
Are we gonna do anything more with the Smith and
That would be for
sexual or?
Right, and they, I am talking with them, next Tuesday again. I did meet with them when Bryce was still here, that last week in June. We're gonna have a phone conversation, but I know they would like to, meet with the entire board just to kind of walk through. And so the question will be whether or not you want them in August or September. So I think perhaps once I've talked to them next Tuesday, I'll get a better clear feeling for their timeline, and then we can figure out what works best for our agendas.
It's the next board meeting, and so we don't have anything for transportation, right?
Well, doesn't sound like it.
Unless you guys want to meet them for a committee as far as what I talked about tonight, as far as front driving.
I mean, maybe when you
What-
get some more details, that wouldn't be a bad idea, just so you can really just lay it out for us, you can walk us out there. This, I have never lined up for elementary drop-off myself, so,
I have.
My own children.
so I mean, I wouldn't mind walking through it, so I really know what you're planning on doing.
Okay.
Your plan is to have no cars coming down this road in front, right? Because middle school, high school's coming here, elementary over here.
Except for the teachers coming in first.
And that should be well before.
For the date at the latest. Yeah.
Should be before and well after. In theory.
It's all happening at
In
the
theory.
same time.
Did we ever hear anything back from, doing house and since I got? I haven't heard.
What?
Did,
Ashley.
Oh,
House,
yeah.
Yes, yes, she
That
did.
was not on the
Yeah.
agenda.
She did.
Yeah, I should have included that in my information, my apologies. But yes, she did. And she will be, we have to arrange a specific date, but sometime after August 1st, she'll be meeting with Josh and I to go over some things, and some planning for the teacher professional development days with her as well.
Did we decide, will she be coming to this meeting? We kind of talked about that.
I don't think, as far as these monthly meetings,
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you think maybe Josh wasn't here? Maybe you missed.
I don't think it was.
I think the last meeting, Amy and Josh, maybe wasn't here, there was a few people that.
Did you talk about it then?
I think we kind of asked, like, I feel like I asked, but I don't remember the answer. But if that position's kind of a middle ground between teacher and administrator, like kind of administrator light. Yes, like, I kind of think maybe they should be. But especially if we're looking at this as something like, that looks great on a resume to become a principal at some time, like to get to administration, this is kind of a next step up. It does make sense to have that position.
I think it may make sense for some meetings. I don't know that she would necessarily have to be in every meeting. I think that may be a situational thing.
Sure. Not required, but
Do you
Right.
think maybe the monthly meetings, but not necessarily like the special meetings or other
Committee meetings,
but
unless
that
it's
you-
something,
that pertains
appropriate
to
for
her.
her area, sure.
Well,
I think we could be a little flexible.
in your experience, do students normally attend school meetings?
No, they don't. Vice principal, even when they're a vice principal, seldom do they. It's usually the person who's the command chair.
Sure.
But it doesn't hurt. I mean, there are times when as a superintendent, I asked vice principals or deans of students to attend the meeting because there was something, things on the agenda that were very specific to their duties and responsibilities. But frankly, if this is just me talking, if I was her, I would want to attend some more meetings because to get that experience. Because I don't know how often she attended when she was a teacher. But I would imagine Head Start board meetings are very different than these board meetings.
I would think that this needed to be a position. Us being notified, maybe it's not every meeting, but I think us having some notification from her, how things, what she's doing, but how things.
Some sort of report.
Just so we can.
Yeah, bare minimum of summary report perhaps, and I think that's something she and Josh can work out the arrangements on as far as how it looks and how it's presented.
And I think if you could, for our next meeting, if you could just have an idea, well, not an idea, like a clear what you've decided when, so that we know what to expect, whether she will be here or won't be here. Or
Sure.
just whatever you decide.
Well, and like how we do an agenda report, like for the principal and the district administrator and then building grounds and policy, couldn't we have a report? And it doesn't always have to be her reporting it per se, but she could attach her
Sure.
summary even to the agenda.
Yep.
So that we can see, and
That she doesn't come.
right, like if
Yeah.
it doesn't exactly pertain to her, like you said, being here, I agree with you in regards to like, she's maybe not required to be here for every single meeting, because every situation that we're talking about may not really directly deal with her. But there are things where she may be involved in, which would be helpful for her to be here.
Absolutely.
So discretion is great with that, but she can also just do a summary and have it attached
Sure.
right under the principal and district, and then it could say dean of students, attach and read your summary, be great.
Okay.
To see what she's saying, what she's seeing,
Sure.
get her opinion and thoughts.
Who did you guys hire for that? Ashley who?
Halverson.
Okay, she's.
Schuster, yep.
August third work? Transportation? Did we, me? What time you said it?
Either's fine for me. I bet August 3rd works.
What time are we thinking?
5:30.
You on transportation? Karen?
Yeah,
I thought I was, but I'm not, but I'm coming anyway. So, Shimmick, Glanville, Mitchick, alternate is Drury.
5:30?
5:30.
Are you main position on third?
Yeah, I'll be here.
We'll go with the third at 5:30.
versus transportation.
So,
You do not need a B and G?
It sounds like you all have things going, things are going.
They're alternative, I mean, obviously, we can see the updates, obviously, yeah, it's not, but as far as that works.
if needed, we can always put them together.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would agree with Kelly right now. Necessarily not one. Also just a reminder for the board that Josh and I, will meet not next week, but the following week, will be at the WASDA Legal Conference. So, picking the brains of the legal scholars in the state of Wisconsin.
I loved your memo. Yes,
Oh,
email.
thank you. I'll try not to make them too.
More info is always.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
Right. I'll second the motion if that was making.
We have a motion to adjourn by Mitchell and second by Shimmick. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. We are adjourned at 7:04.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
My first official meeting is painless. I appreciate it.
We're almost under.
Yeah.
I can make it fit.
Thank you all for attending.
Yeah.
Your turn.
Bringing Mondays.